What's going on, people? We are back once again for a live Palace Focus international break. It's not over yet. We're getting there. It's not over yet. But you know what? Some Palace players are back and some Palace players still got a couple games to play as well. But we're here to discuss everything that's been happening over the international break. And trust me, with Palace, it hasn't stopped. We've got James Macarthur news. We've got Eze, is he coming back? We've got loads more. So as always, if you do enjoy it, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on future content. And also the link will be posted very shortly where you can click on it and join and have your say as well. As always, thanks to everyone who's joined us. I'm joined by T and Stan. T, we're talking about it just before we started going live. How's the international break been for you? Because you know what? This might sound controversial. I feel like I'm the only person on earth, but I don't mind the international break.
I mean, under regular circumstances, I wouldn't mind it either, but this has been pretty boring. These international breaks that we had have been, it's been hard just because, like I said earlier, I think it's the fact that when you're in a situation where your club team is playing really well, and in our situation as Palace fans, we haven't had that in a really long time. To have us playing so well, you look forward to seeing them play week in and week out. And with the international breaks, it's just tough. You want to see your club guys out there right now, and I don't know. I mean, D, being that you got love for your Turkey guys, you want to see those guys play,
Yeah, that's why he's excited, man. That's why
it seems like there's a lot of dysfunction with the England fans, though.
Yeah, Stan. So what about you? So you're over in Canada, but when it comes to it, do you follow both? Do you follow neither? Or how do you do it? How do you do it?
It's a funny one as well, because a little bit like you, I was born and raised in the UK.
Yeah.
My parents, my whole family is Polish.
Okay.
So I follow England and I follow Poland as well.
All right.
Yeah. So obviously England, like they're always going to qualify. They've got like the best team in the world, right? But Poland, like watching the drivel that those guys serve up, especially when they don't have like Robert Lewandowski and a couple of other like half decent players, is very, very difficult to watch, So the international break, mate. I prefer my club football, man. I know you're loving it because your guys Turkey obviously
it's hard.
Big transformation, like. Probably
going to go playoffs. They're about to play, right?
They're going to play in like 20, 25 minutes, half an hour. So I'll probably miss a bit of it. But it's a massive game.
Cut us off early.
Yeah, exactly. Cut us off like right on dot from kickoff. But no, it's a massive game for us. Basically, we have the chance of going to World Cup if we win and if other results. It's going to be exciting. I'm either going to be very depressed tonight or very happy over the moon. But lots of people are already talking about Eze and Gallagher. And just talking about international break, let's quickly have a quick recap for everyone who doesn't know what's been going on during the international break, where the players have been. So let's start off with this man here, Cheku Kouyaté. He's been involved with Senegal. He played in the 1-1 draw against Togo on Thursday and wasn't involved in the Congo game. The next player, which Stan and T is not a massive fan of, Jordan Ayew, he's played in Ghana 2 World Cup qualifying games.
Play. I watched that.
He was involved with Ghana in both of the games.
What happened? What happened? Let me guess. He was rubbish.
No, he played in both the games. I'm not too sure. I haven't watched the games. I'm just giving a quick recap of what's been going on. Benteke, he's been on form for Palace as well. He was in Belgium squad and scored and got an assist in the 3-1 win over Estonia. Joachim Andersen, he got sent back to Palace after a minor injury, which I believe he picked up whilst at the club, so they didn't want to risk him. So he got sent back pretty early on.
Mate, I don't know. I saw him banging them top bins in training a couple of days ago.
And then afterwards, they just sent him back. That's what I saw as well. And the next day, it's like, all right, cool. We've seen enough of you. Just go back to Palace.
Yeah.
And then finally, talking about international break and what players have been up to, Mark Guay and Conor Gallagher were both called up to the England under-21 squad. And they both were involved in the 3-1 victory over Czech Republic. But after that game, Conor Gallagher got called up to the senior squad for the first time. And that's where I want to start. As people can see from the title, Conor Gallagher made his international senior debut. Stan, as you mentioned, you do watch a bit of England and Poland at the same time. He deserves it, doesn't he? If there's someone in this side, it has to be Conor Gallagher. Many Palace fans were frustrated over what happened when he wasn't selected, but he managed to make his first international debut due to illnesses and injuries, and he looked over the moon as always.
Mate, he did. And I'll be honest, I was absolutely fuming with that fraud Southgate when he didn't pick him, man. Like, come on. He's been one of the best midfielders in the league, since the beginning of the season. And he's, look at some of the players that he picked as well that were completely out of form. He shouldn't have been picked because of injuries and illness, man. He should have been there on merit. But look, like I said, he's there. Brilliant, delighted for him. Let's hope he can get in another squad and they don't put him back in the 21s.
Look, we've been talking about Gallagher, whether he should be signing, whether we've got even a chance of signing him at Palace. And after that senior debut, trust me, all eyes are on Gallagher. Does it make it ever more so harder now that he's actually got his England cap for us, whilst playing on loan for us, and now that Chelsea, and not only Chelsea, I think every club is basically on Gallagher's radar so far?
Well, naturally, I guess my first inclination was to think, it's going to be harder now that he's become a capped England international. But then I thought about the flip side too, because in order for him to get to this point, he was needing to play consistent first team football at a high level, which he's getting with Palace.
Yeah.
He goes back to Chelsea, he's not guaranteed that opportunity. And more than likely, he's not going to be getting it. Whereas you're also thinking about the fact that what's coming up next year for him? The World Cup opportunity. So maybe he's saying to himself now, if I want to have a chance to be a part of this World Cup team for 2022, I need to keep playing every single day. I need to be getting first team football all the time and not just possibly being a bit part player, getting maybe a few Champions League appearances and some cup appearances. So maybe it helps us out some. I don't know.
Well, people, before we actually continue about Gallagher, we've got a comment from Paul here saying, speaking of international, thoughts on the winter break next year, possibly 2-3 games a week to fulfill the fixture list of league and cup games. There was a report that came out during the international break about how there's going to be a mid-season break of 1 month, basically. Actually longer than 1 month, 6 weeks, starting from November to December for the World Cup next year. Stan, that's not football, is it? But it's one of those things where you can't do nothing about it. It's already happened. Paul, quickly, if you want to share your thoughts on that news that came out.
Yeah, it's not football, mate. I'm a firm believer the World Cup should be in the summer, but they've done it. Should that World Cup even be going ahead over there? That's a story. That's a completely other story that we need to discuss. Is what it is, mate. I do worry about players burning out. You've had COVID, you had a very, very long break at the start of that, and they had a very short time off, and then they've had a major tournament, and you can see some of England's players in general have really, really burnt out and lost form because I just think they're bloody knackered. So we're looking at that again, but if it's not going to be that, it's going to be something else, mate. So I don't think it's it's not a huge surprise to me.
Yeah. Well, going back to Gallagher now, mentioned about whether Gallagher can play football week in, week out at Chelsea. And there's actually been a report, which Oliver's mentioned as well, it's come out from the Chelsea Chronicles, which it says sources within the 21-year-old's close circle says he fears that the Blues will be tempted to strengthen the squad in the next 2 transfer markets. So, Stan, do you think there's a chance that we've seen it? Gallagher is enjoying his football at Palace. You don't even have to speak to him. You can just see it when someone is enjoying their football. He always talks good about the fans. He's clearly on the pitch, scoring goals, running up and down, playing like he's an actual permanent Palace player, not a loan player. So do you think there's a genuine chance now that after 10 games that we've played, which it feels like we've seen Gallagher for 20, 30 games the way that he's been playing, do you think there's a genuine chance that, you know what, I can get in the England squad at Palace? I've just done it after 10 games. So
literally,
why should I go back to Chelsea? Maybe I should permanently sign at Palace where I can play week in, week out, and I can also represent my national side as well. Do you think Gallagher could be potentially thinking about that? Reports are suggesting that it is on his mind, but I'm not too sure how reliable the reports are. But what do you think?
It is on his mind, I would imagine. I wouldn't get too much into it because the England manager, he doesn't really pick players from Palace. There's been a few over the years that have been good enough and he hasn't picked. It was, again, it's hard to ignore Gallagher, but I think that his game time's going to be limited at Chelsea. I think you've got to believe that. I think you've got that midfield. You've got Mason Mount. You've got Conte. I'm trying to think who else plays in that midfield. I don't watch him that often, but
Jorginho, Conte, Kovacic,
and they can strengthen as well. That's what the report says. So they can strengthen. Gallagher knows that even with these players, they can even go and get better players, which sounds scary.
Yeah. So I think he wants to keep playing, and I think he's going to taste a bit of what's it called, a bit of action with us, and taste a bit of England's senior squad. And can he keep that? Can we afford him? I don't know if we can. I mean, Chelsea, I think, Chelsea are going to want insane money for him.
That's true.
Right?
How much? Lastly, Stan mentioned it. I think his price has gone up now after his debut. He was always going up by the game at Palace anyways. How much do you think Gallagher is currently worth?
Probably around 40.
That's a lot of money for Palace to go and pay.
It is.
That is a lot of money.
It is a lot of money. It really is. And I think that's just part of the reality of the quality of player we're dealing with and the level that he's playing at right now.
I also think as well that he's good, and they say never fall in love with a low knee, but obviously you've seen Twitter, it's going off for Conor Gallagher at the moment.
But
I think you've got to look at it as well, though. Yeah, he's good and he's doing amazingly, but Chelsea have so many young players that are good. And if we don't get him, you'll get another one. Do you know what I mean? You will. Most players, if you look at the players that they've loaned us, Mishi first season was decent. Last season, the less said, the better. Loftus-Cheek, brilliant. Constantly injured, but brilliant when he was there. Gallagher, brilliant. The only ones that haven't really worked out is Bamford and Loic Remy, right?
Yep.
If you think about it. So you can get more. You can get players from there anyway. I think, I'm just focusing on this season. Let's see how he goes. If he continues this form, I don't know, they might want 100 million for him. You don't know. It's very difficult. We don't know, mate. It's very difficult to negotiate.
They drive a hard bargain over there. They really do drive a hard
and they
bargain.
They can. They've got a quality player there. So why would they give him for cheap? They know that his value's going to increase by the years anyways.
One of the journos from The Athletic, I don't know if you guys read that publication or not, said that they tried to go to Maria Granovskia at Chelsea and, tried to buy Mishi Batshuayi, and she quoted Steve Parish 45 million quid. So, do you know what I mean?
That's scary. If Batshuayi is worth 45 million, you know what? 100 million
third or
for
fourth choice striker going for 30 million.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, let me read some comments as well. Red says, sign him up. He loves us. CJ says he won't get the same love and respect at Chelsea. Colin leaves a long comment saying, here in Chelsea have said that if Gallagher has a great season, he'll have his chance in the team next season. However, someone close to him says with the players in front of him already, and those two will sign, he doesn't think he'll get the games he wants and needs, which is Colin just saying what we've just said about that report. Nick, we've got more comments coming. Errol says, it's a good point to you about Gallagher. Jay says, I swear Chelsea play midfield too, Kante and Jorginho, and they're linked with loads of players, Bellingham, Rice. They are. And trust me, they can get as many players as they want. And with all these, look how tight the season is now. They all try to strengthen. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, it's going to be hard. It's always going to be hard. As Stan said, we take it one game at a time. But congrats to Gallagher already for making senior debut.
There's one scenario that I could see being in our favor that could work out is that if we get him for another year on loan, for a second year on loan, and his form kind of evens out a little bit. Right now he's super, super hot. He's up there, he's a hot name. He's doing really well. Maybe if we get him for that second year, and between now and then, his play starts to even out a little bit more. Maybe it becomes a little bit more affordable for us after that second year. But who knows?
Yeah. So more comments. Luke says 55 million for Gallagher. Damien said 50 million plus. So we've got loads of. It's pretty much 50 million and above. But we got Nick here. Nick, we're talking about Conor Gallagher. Thank you once again for joining us.
I see
you got your little stash as well for November.
Yeah. I'll put the link in the chat halfway through. It's doing me head in, if I'm honest.
Man,
Yeah,
I know
I've raised over 100 quid. So
that's gotta be
Nice.
that's gotta be driving you nuts right now, man.
No,
Yeah.
it's not too bad. My mate's doing it as well, and he's gutted because he's like bum fluff still after 16 days, and me like full on porn star look, innit? Really, I'm thinking of joining an Eagles tribute band.
There you go, mate.
Soft rock.
Look like you're from the 80s. But we're talking about Conor Gallagher.
What do you mean? I look like I'm from the 80s. I am from the 80s.
Yeah, we're living up to your age then.
Wait, whoa! Less of the age, yeah.
Yeah, well,
You're outnumbered here, lad.
we'll be talking about age later on. There's one player that we'll be talking about age later on. Trust me, even I feel old. But Nick, we're talking about Conor Gallagher here. What do you think about the current situation? Made his England debut. Most people in the chat are saying 50 million plus at least for him. Do you think our chances of getting him have decreased after this senior debut, or not much has changed?
I'm still reeling from the 47 million for Batshuayi, if I'm honest. You know, that tickled me. It all depends on what Chelsea are doing. A lot of people are saying that clubs are buying players just so that other clubs can't have them. You know, 9 hour luck, Chelsea will say, "Oh, we don't want him," and Newcastle will buy him for 100 million because they've got loads of Wonga. You know, who knows? It's just, I think it's a lot of it is down to us fans to make him want to stay.
Yeah,
I really do, and I think he's buying into the ethos of the club. And we're on a journey. We've started a journey, and you'd like to think that those that are on the journey with us now want to stay with us. That said, if we lose him, it's not going to be the end of the world because one player doesn't make a team. It should never do. If one player makes a team, we've had that for years. We've been relying on Will for so long as a one-man team. I'm not disparaging any of the other players because they've all done good jobs, but something's wrong if you're relying on one man. So, you know, we'll get by without him. We've got Eze, we've got Elise, we've got players coming through, we've got Raksaki coming through. So it won't be the end of the world. But let's just enjoy him while he's here because it's stupendous what he's doing for us. And he looked really good for England against, all right, admittedly, a very, very, very poor opposition.
yeah.
But he
It's
was
a country
everywhere,
the
wasn't
size of Balham or something, isn't it?
Sorry?
Country the size of Balham.
Yeah. Gateway to the south.
Yeah. So Nick, let's move on to the next topic. Enough about Gallagher. Actually, I'll read a few more comments before we go. Some comments. Richard says maybe sign Gallagher on loan for a second season with us. CJ says I'll say Chelsea will want 50 million. Paul says where does Eze fit into this lineup? We'll be talking eze in a bit. Don't worry about that. Monty says I nearly fell off my chair when I saw him on the pitch. Phantom says imagine we had put a loan to buy in this contract. Yeah, Chelsea will never. Yeah,
they're never going to give you a loan.
They're never going to do that. They're too smart for that. Close the door says Nick is from the 70s. Be real.
I was actually born in 1969, so you know.
Yeah, so you are actually.
So you ain't
round it up.
80s,
You are
then.
from the 70s. Yeah. And yeah, that's pretty much about Gallagher. Now,
can I just say I'd pay 50 million. 50
You
million if we could afford him.
You've got to lay it around.
if we can
Deep
afford
pocket
them,
John Textor now.
I don't think it's in this club's ethos to pay that money for players anymore. I think they're looking at, they won't spend more than 15 to 20 mil on a player.
Look, I'm prepared to have rain dripping on my head for a few more seasons and not have a new stand if it meant getting Gallagher.
Send that to Parish. Send that because it hasn't happened yet anyway. So yeah, send that.
It's a year delayed as well. So
exactly, yeah. So and see what he thinks about it. But Nick, thank you for coming on. As always, it's always a pleasure talking to you. If you want to come on like Nick as well and have your say, you can easily do so. Just click on the pinned comment and you can join us. You don't have to turn your webcam on, or you can just keep sending your comments. So it's up to you. But it'll be good to chat to more of you if you do want to join. And talking about the next player, this is good news. This was a smile on my face. Eberechi Eze is reportedly in line to make his return to action for Palace against Burnley. Evs is back. And trust me, it's been a long journey for him. And I felt very bad for him because since he joined the club, he was very good. He was on form. And then towards the late stage of the season, he just picked up that nasty injury and he's been out. And Vieira hasn't been able to use him. But I'll start with VT. Eze is finally back. What do you think? What do you think? How does it fit into the starting lineup? Let's not even hide from the question. How does Eze and Patrick Vieira work?
Well, at the moment, I don't think he fits into the starting lineup. And I think that's systematic. I think that's part of, bringing him back into the fold of things. We see already with guys like Elise that, PV doesn't want to rush him. Now, could he have a little bit more faith in what Eze can do at this level? Yes, because he did it for a year already compared to Elise, this being his first year in the Prem. But being that he's dealing with an injury, I don't think he's going to be rushed back. I mean, I do think he'll be on the bench against Burnley. Let me say that. I do think he'll make the bench. But I think right now it's just I think he's going to slowly bring him back into the fold of things, which I think is probably best coming back from what he's coming back from.
Stan, when we're talking about Eze, he can play everywhere across the front three. Maybe not up front, but I can see him playing on the left, playing on the right. He can also play centrally, middle.
So he actually played some striker for QPR that last season.
Yeah, so he played 10. He can play up front as well. But I'm just thinking that this Palace side, I think realistically up front we're pretty much sorted for now.
No.
Where do you realistically see Vieira play Eze? Do you think that he can make him a versatile, creative player sometimes if we need him down the right? Because down the right we've got Elise who's knocking on the door and he's not getting as much game time. And then in the middle, we'll be talking about James Macarthur, but there's potential rumor about him being out. So realistically, where does Eze fit in? Do you think Vieira's going to use him all over the front three and the middle?
I think all over. Yeah, I think all over. I think he's such a versatile player. You saw that last year, even under Cautious Roy, that he played a number of different positions. I think in a couple of games, he played holding midfield under Roy Hodgson. If you remember, he was just
he had to because of
let's not do that this time.
Patrick Van Aanholt. Yeah, he had to.
Yeah, so I'm not fussed where we see him. He's getting in this team. He's good enough to get in this team. There's no two ways about it. So I'm not fussed. Wherever he comes in, he'll do a good job because that's the type of player he is.
Yeah. CJ says, has Eze ever played in front of our fans? I don't think so. He hasn't. And if he plays this Saturday, it's technically in front of Burnley fans. Well, we'll be there as well. I'm going to be there, but it's still going to be playing away from home. So he hasn't had the chance to play in front of our fans. Richard says, return of King Eze. Luke says, Ebbs, Wilf, and Edward up front.
Stop it.
Benteke comes out.
Stop it, bro.
So Benteke comes out of it. Paul says, Eze back for Villa. Well, what's wrong with that, though? Stan?
Mate, I don't even want to think about it.
Because then you also have Elise in there too, and it's just like, oh my God.
It's too much. It's too much. And this was before the Macarthur potential injury. There's rumors coming out, which we'll be talking about, as I've said, in just a moment. But we're actually we went from under Roy Hodgson to, all right, these players have to play because they are creative players, to having all these players, and we're not too sure how we can fit them in. And the credit has to go to Parish and the board because the improvement in manager, that was very good, but also depth this season. We've improved significantly in all areas of the pitch, and we spent quite a bit of money. I know we've been talking about whether we can spend that much on Gallagher, but we have spent money this summer, not only on one player, but on the squad overall, and that's why we're in this situation. But it's a good situation to be in because, personally, I don't think Eze should be rushed. There's no need to rush him. He's just coming off a long injury. We had the international break, which that's another positive because he had another week off for his recovery, another week on the training ground, getting used to Patrick Vieira's style of play. But for Eze, he's going to have his opportunities next month if he ain't against Burnley because we've got some games coming up like every 3 to 4 days. That's how December is. So squad rotation is going to be needed due to the style of football that we do play. So even if Eze doesn't play against Burnley, I think he's going to have his opportunities, not this month maybe, but next month. And I think Eze himself, he won't be too upset about that because he knows how good we've been playing. I'll be reading some more comments as well. Richard says slip Ebbs in alongside Gallagher in midfield. Jay says Zaha left wing, striker Edward right wing, Olise behind the cam, Eze. Palace 1439 says Ebbs has to play central as a number 10. Do you think Eze can play next to Gallagher? We'll end off with this the Eze chat. Do you think he can play next to Gallagher, or is the balance not going to be there as much?
That's risky because you need someone that can hold a little bit. Do you know what I mean? That it doesn't go as far forward. Because
he'll fit in the Macarthur role. So it's basically a question of, can Eze play in the Maca role?
I don't think so.
I don't think you play Eze in the Maca role. I think you play Conor Gallagher in the Maca role.
Okay, you put him. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
I think Conor can do it. I wouldn't want Eze to do it. I think you let Eze do what Conor's been doing, honestly. Because if you think about it, in a lot of these games, Maca has gotten forward a lot. He's been in the opponent's box. He's been right around the box. So for a player like Gallagher, he's going to be up there. So he's still going to be involved in the attack for sure if he's in that Maca role. The one thing I do like to point out is the fact that when you think about those under 23 games, those two under 23 games that Eze played in, he played centrally. He didn't play out wide. And I think that's a sign of intention, because if Patrick Vieira is wanting to have him have those tune-up games to make his way back and to see what he's got in Eze, he's going to put him in the position that he wants him to be playing in his system. I don't think he's going to waste time putting him in central midfield if he wants to see what he's going to do on the wing. You know what I mean? Yeah. I think if he wanted him to be out there, he's going to put him in the position that he expects him to be able to play in his system.
I agree. I just seen Nick's comment here. Left wing Schlupp, striker Mateta, right wing are you?
You're fired. You're fired. Right. You're fired.
And that's why Nick should never get into management. Moses says Eze shouldn't play against Burnley, their physical team, and we can't risk him getting kicked to bits. So look, it's going to be, I would hate to be in Vieira's position right now, because it's not easy. You've got all these talented players, and someone has to be upset because all these players can easily play for Premier League sides, but we just can't fit them all in. And that's the point of having squad depth. But it's good competition. These players that are playing and starting, if they don't have a good game, if they are slacking, and no one has been so far, they know that their position is under threat, which we haven't had for a very long time.
But you've had a couple of players, sorry to interrupt, D, but like you've had a couple of players, poor games. Like Luke had a couple of poor games. He's back. He's on the bench. Do you know what I mean? And that's how
you're seeing Ayew getting phased out.
Yeah, he's poor.
So that's really the positive out of this. We've got squad depth, and Ebbs is back and he's smiling and training as always. So
always.
So normal services resume, but this is where we go. We talked about the positives, and this is the potential negative. So this is a rumor. It hasn't been officially confirmed yet. I've heard about it, and it's been on Twitter as well. Jason Macarthur is out due to a serious hamstring injury, and is reported to be until at least 2022. So he won't be with us next month. As I've said before, it is a rumor. It hasn't been confirmed by official club sources yet. But I think at this point, the way that everyone is saying it, I think there is some truth to it. And Macarthur is going to be out. I'm not too sure exactly how long, but if it's to 2022, they're saying it not even January, I think February. That's what they're saying, which is a long time, because there's a lot of games to be played. That is a massive blow to the team, ain't it? Because we've talked about it many times on the show how important Maca is to our presses, running all over the pitch. He's the one that makes, he's up there with Conor Gallagher in terms of most sprints per game and how much of the pitch he covers. And he's one of the hardest workers in training and the hardest workers on the pitch. And in a way, not controversial, but as simple as this might sound, I am not very surprised by this injury concerns, because even at the start of the season, I did mention Maca's age. He's 34, and the style of football that we play, it is very demanding. So naturally, I was expecting him in the second half of the season. I think the only surprising aspect that it is that it's happened now rather than
I think they're saying
2022.
8 weeks out.
Yeah. I was expecting him to have some time out, not due to injuries, but it's very unrealistic for him to run at that levels and perform like that week in, week out at that age. Like, even if he wants to, even if he's the fittest man on earth, his body is taking a toll. He's been playing football for many years, and it's a massive blow. It is a massive blow. But T, do you think we've got enough depth to cover Macarthur's role in his position, or do you think we're going to be in serious trouble in that midfield area with Macarthur out?
I absolutely do think we have the depth, and it feels good to be able to say that.
For sure.
I think in the past, if you lose a contributor of his caliber, we're in trouble in a lot of ways. But I think that as big of a loss as it is, it's also a big opportunity for someone else to of quality to step in and play well. And I mean, it's one of those things for me, man. Like right now, I literally since there's literally nothing being no concrete reports or anything, I have to. I'm not going to allow myself to believe it until we see the squad list or hear from Patrick on Friday in the press conference, because it's just one of those things. Like, I don't even want to give the energy to, because we don't know anything right now. So
it hasn't been officially confirmed, but I don't think it's a BS report. I'll just say that I really don't think it is.
I don't think it is, and it is obviously. Look, it is a big loss, and like this time last season, it was like, oh my god, he was out, and when he was out, like we really, really missed him, because he's a bit of a pocket rocket as well, and he runs about, he gets about, he knows how to play a good pass, etc., etc. The one thing I will say is there's a lot of depth in that team, man.
Yep.
Like, and you've got different players that can play against different teams. You can adapt. You can bring Luca in there next to Conor Gallagher if you want to be solid. You can bring Jeff Schlupp into that centre mid. You can bring Gyro. You can bring Will Hughes. There's a lot of players that can play central. So, honestly, like this time last year, I'd have been like, oh my god, more injuries.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you look at Gyro, like he's barely had any game, right? He's barely had any games under Vieira, because I think he's really struggled to adapt to the new style of play, that because the previous manager drilled into him, don't go past the halfway line, and etc., etc. So I'm not that bothered.
So there's comments coming in about who should have the game time now, and I'm seeing lots of Will Hughes. So T, realistically, who do you think Patrick Vieira is going to put in that position? Because as we've seen it, Schlupp does often come on for Maka. Do you think he's going to put Schlupp in his starting 11, or is Schlupp still going to come off the bench? And if that's the case, then who replaces Maka for you?
I could see it being Schlupp. I guess part of it just depends on how much Patrick Vieira values Schlupp as a substitute over starting him at the beginning of the match. It's kind of similar to how he does with Elise. He tends to really value Elise in that substitution role, bringing that energy late in the game. So if he kind of looks at Schlupp the same way, I could see him leaving Schlupp on the bench. As far as who would start then in that situation, I would probably think Gyro.
Do you think so?
Only because
would you like Gyro to start, or do you think Vieira will start Gyro? Because Gyro hasn't been involved as much. There's Luca as well, but I don't think Luca fits into that role.
I don't think you play Luca and Kouyaté. The reason I don't think you play Luca and Kouyaté together, so I don't think that happens. I like Gyro because he is a progressive passer in the situation. He has played a little bit earlier this season. We haven't seen Will Hughes yet. Gyro has played this season at least.
Mate, with Will Hughes though, T, the one thing I will say is if you're considered a decent baller, you're getting a chance. You get a debut, you get minutes off the bench, whatever. Like, there's something else that's going on there. I think they've looked at him in training.
Like, that's the thing. We have not seen Will Hughes yet. Not one single minute.
But I don't think he's good enough. That's what I think. They've looked at him in training and gone, nah.
It's like I know people want him to get a chance. I know people want to see him out there, but we're not just going to throw him into the starting lineup. And we haven't seen this dude play one single minute yet, and he's been healthy.
Yeah, I think you'll see. I think you're going to see in that midfield. It's going to be three in the midfield. You're going to get Gallagher, Kouyaté, and Schlupp. on Saturday. That's
Yeah,
going to be my guess.
I'll put my bets on either Schlupp or Gyro. I wouldn't be surprised either way. Like I said, I just think it just matters on how Vieira views somebody like Schlupp. It's like, do I want to throw him out there right away, use his energy, get him out there, or do I want to save him for later on to bring on to the pitch? Because if you start a guy like Gyro, if Gyro's doing really well, he's playing really well, great. If not, then you throw Schlupp on. But I don't know.
Well, Luke says Gyro is a progressive passer. I rate him, so I think Luke agrees with you there. Paul says could even put I in midfield as he doesn't like to go forward for some reason. Just pass it back to Wardy. Phantom says I think you need to look at the opponent as we were playing a physical team in Burnley. I think Schlupp makes sense for the reason that he's got pace in him. And if we're talking about presses this season, both Gallagher and Macarthur, the reason why they've been important is because they've managed to close down opponents. And when you're looking at pace, Schlupp's got that pace to make sure that the opponents are closed down as soon as they get the ball. So I think he will start Schlupp. I think it's Schlupp. Luca doesn't make any sense to me in that role, especially if Kouyaté starting. And Gyro, it seems like Vieira doesn't rate him as much as we've rated him once. I think Palace fans are slowly losing faith in him as well. So I think realistically, based on the substitutions that's made so far this season, with Maka coming off for Schlupp, I think Schlupp will just play for Maka, and we'll see how well it works. I think Maka is a massive loss for us. I really do think that due to areas it covers, but we've got enough squad depth, and if Schlupp doesn't work, we can change it about. We can try a Gyro, or we can try a Will.
Was he 34, 35, like you said? Like
yeah, 34. It's the scary thing about it is hopefully this is a blip, but when you're around these ages and these injuries start to happen, hopefully just an injury and not injuries. That's what I'm more worried about, because it's 34. Is this like the start of not the end? That's a bit over dramatic, but is this like the start of maybe where he starts to pick up injuries due to age?
Because who's the captain?
It takes longer to get back from that.
He's been the captain, so I guess Wilf will be
the captain. Wilf or Wardy,
I think he'll be Wilf. But we were talking about the Burnley game in just a second. Jay says you can play Gallagher in the Maka role and play Olise in midfield, a bit tighter though until Eze is fully fit. Then play Eze in the 10, so Gallagher, Kouyaté, Olise a bit further. Adeyemi says Gallagher is widely expected to fit into Chelsea's first in picture next season after a hugely impressive spell today with Palace. Luke says T talk sense. Yeah, he does, man.
Yeah, boy.
Richard says got to give Huzi a chance, but I put Kouyaté on from the start. S3 says Eze should start, and Red Red says Captain Wilf. So talking about the Burnley game quickly, it's not going to be a long show tonight. We're still on international break, but we thought we might as well come on and talk about all the latest news. We got Burnley coming up, boys, and you know what? In a way, I like the international break because I think it's needed. We've got loads of winnable games coming up, and they're going to be back to back. As I've said in December, it's going to be very hectic. But part of me says we were on a good stride, and now due to the international break, you lose a bit of momentum and routine. Some players have gone away with the national sides. So how are we thinking ahead of this Burnley game? Are we confident? Because against Wolves, I was expecting a draw and a win against Burnley, but because it's happened during the international break, I'm just... Part of me says it's going to be more difficult because it might take a bit more while to get back in our stride due to this break. Where do you stand, Stan? Where do you stand, Stan? That's interesting.
There you go, mate. I think they've had a bit of they hit a bit of form as well actually before they went on international break.
They weren't too good against Chelsea. They got lucky, massively lucky.
I don't know how many players they have got away on internationals. I'm telling you one thing though, this ain't an easy game. This is not an easy game.
No, they're going to sit that low block. They're going to sit it low.
They've done us 4 times in a row now. They've done the double over us last year. They've done us 3-0 at Selhurst. I think 1 or 2-0 up at Turf Moor. We have to adapt to play them because they're like you said, they exploit teams that play high lines, that Wood can finish. They bully players off the ball. They've got a little bit of quality in Cornet. Look, they're not a great side, but they grind out results. They play, dogged football, and I think it's a really tough game, man. That is a really tough game. It's not the game I would have wanted straight after international break anyway.
Well, looking at Burnley's recent form, in the last 5 games, they drew against Chelsea away from home 1-0. They beat Brentford 3-1 at their ground. They only lost 1-0 to Tottenham. drew 2-2 with Southampton away from home, and also lost a 2-0 away from home as well. Personally,
Lost to who? 2-0.
Lost to
Wolves?
City.
City.
Sorry, yeah, City.
Mhm.
Yeah, so City away from home 2-0. So they've had some interesting results. Brentford 3-1. I know they've slightly dipped in form, but that's all impressive. I was very surprised about that. The Chelsea game away from home, even though it was pretty much very lucky because Chelsea didn't take their chances, still they'll actually get a point away from home. I think it's going to be a very difficult game, and it's going to be a different test to the Wolves game. But talking about the lineups, I think for me, the back four doesn't change. I think you keep Vicente Guaita there, you keep Ward there, and you keep the centre-backs and Mitchell there as well. But do you start Kouyaté in this game as well? Because he's been in form, but we expect to keep the ball pretty much against Burnley. So is Kouyaté the right man to start in this game, or would you like someone else to replace him?
That's a really good question, D. I think it matters more who you're going to put in that other midfield spot based on who plays in that spot there. I think if you play somebody like a Schlupp in there, I think you can go ahead and play a Kouyaté. Just because I don't think we want to be too overly offensive. I think we want to have some guys in there. Plus, here's a real big reason why I think I play Kouyaté back there. Burnley likes to play the ball over the top. They like to play the ball in crosses and things, and Kouyaté gives us that extra guy in there who can play
deadly from set pieces.
Yeah, they're because they got guys like Wood, who's actually really good with his head.
Ashley Barnes,
who's really good with his head. So I think it's good to have that third guy between our two central defenders, and then having Kouyaté back there that can play the ball in the air pretty decently. So I would probably play Kouyaté in this game in particular.
Yeah, and then talking about Macca's replacement quickly, Stan, who have you got? Is it Schlupp? Is it Schlupp for you?
I'm saying Schlupp. I'm going to go with Schlupp. I think he may play Luca though, because I think you might need a battering ram in that centre mid against Burnley, because
Luca's more comfortable on the ball as well. So
yeah, more comfortable on the ball, and he can you've got to smash him a bit. Do you know what I mean? Because they're going to smash you about. Who plays in the midfield for them? I couldn't even tell you, mate.
Yeah, I'm not too sure myself. I'm not going to lie here and say I know who plays in the midfield.
Is it Goodmanson plays in the midfield for them? I don't even know.
I'm not too sure, but I think we should still win that midfield battle in terms of technical ability, to be honest. I know we're running out of time here, so
I gotta get off here.
Not going to be a long show.
Probably right now, actually.
Exactly. So let's end this off quickly with your score predictions. If you want to leave them down in the comment section as well, I'll quickly go through them. I'll start with UT. Palace, Burnley away from home, 6 games unbeaten. Are we continuing that unbeaten streak?
3-1 Palace.
Woo! I like that. Stan?
1-0 Palace.
1-0. So it's going to be a bit more time for you. I'm going 2-1 Palace. I think they're solid defensively, so it should be not a struggle. I think we should still beat them, but I'm going 2-1 Palace. Quickly before we head off, some of your score predictions. Oliver 2-0 Palace. S3 says 2-0 Palace as well. 3-0 to us. Red says 5-0 to us, says Paul. So yeah, everyone's optimistic about this game, and hopefully we go and get another win. But we're back from the international break. There'll be loads more content coming out on back of the Nest channel. So as always, subscribe if you haven't already done so. And if you haven't liked the stream and if you enjoyed it, if you can drop a like, that'd be massively appreciative. And that's it from us today. But as always, we'll be back next Tuesday at the same time talking about that Burnley victory. Fingers crossed. Hopefully I didn't jinx it. And we'll be doing the opposition preview on Thursday. So many more content coming up. That's it from us today. And until next time, up the Palace.
Up the Palace.